Okay, so this right here, I want to talk about a little bit. Is it's a UART to USB converter. I believe it might have different names as well, but if you just search for UART to USB, you'll find this. And I know I usually sort of talk on my blog about like privacy and everything, but I in my research I kind of ran across this, and it's been a long sort of an obsession of mine to interface with electronics in a way that I could possibly reprogram them, but I never really understood how to do this until I found some just at random I found some talks on YouTube. So I started digging into this. You can pick this up for like like about like $3 to $5 or something. I think I paid about like $3.56 in British pounds for this. And basically what this allows you to do now, most digital electronics will have a debug port on it, and it usually looks like a couple of pins. Sometimes they will have headers on them, so you can actually have these female jumper cables directly interface with them. But in most cases you will actually have to solder them, and I'll show you that right here. I don't know if it's very visible, but right here is the UART port, and you're gonna have to figure out now let me see if I remember this correctly, and I can actually check on the device. You're gonna have to figure out how to connect the ground, obviously, the transmit X and the receive X, the TX and RX. You're gonna have to find them, and I'm not far enough into this exactly how to measure that. Plus I can't find my multimeter at the moment. It's hidden somewhere in the house and I can't find it, so I wasn't even able to really test for them. The only thing I did is I made my own little continuity tester with a battery and an LED, and I figured out which one was ground, and in my case that is actually the one right here at the end, this port. In my experience, most UART ports have 4 pins. One of them will be VCC voltage, one of them will be ground, and then one of them will be TX, and one of them will be RX. It is important that you do not attach the VCC pin, just leave that loose. And there are various ways, you can find them on the internet, to actually measure these pins and get to which one is which. The way I did it is I just soldered my wires right to them, and since, and I'll just shift this back for a moment, since my converter allows me to just pull the cables off and then rearrange them, I actually, I don't know if you can see that, but this one right here is actually crossed because I accidentally hooked up the transmit to the receive and the receive to the transmit. So all I did was I just cross-wired them here on the converter, and that worked fine. I don't think there's very much danger there. So like, you can just experiment until you you see output coming from your terminal, and we'll get into that terminal stuff once we jump over into the computer. I'm going to tell you a little bit about this device right here. So I was looking around for something to hardware hack, as they call it, and I couldn't really find anything. I was kind of hoping, given my my last post on the blog on the POCSEC and the Flex stuff, I was kind of hoping to score me an IM girl tag IM. Maybe some of you will know that, you know, this is a little like a wireless texting device marketed to sort of well, children so they can text for free, and it uses a radio frequency chip to do that, and that can be hacked. And there's a whole project out there. Sammy Camcar did a nice, it's called Open Sesame. Look it up, it's really cool. And he opens garage doors with it and just presses space bar, and the garage door pops up, and he hacked the encryption there for the garage doors, and found out that you can just basically fire off every combination to it, and within like a few seconds the garage door pops open. I could find one IME for a reasonable price on eBay, and so could a lot of other people. So there was a couple of snipers set up there to pick it up, I think, because it was literally like I was overbid by 20 cents. It went for 11.45 or something in British pounds. A couple of them, the IMEs on Amazon will cost you over £200 at the moment, so like $300 or something, because they became really popular in the hacking community because of their radio abilities. So just to get off topic here, what I did there is I went and got myself, for even less money, I got myself just a chip on a it's not on a USB connected device. It's actually an Arduino compatible device, and it has the same chip, or equivalent at least. It's actually a slightly newer model of the same chip on the device. So more on that definitely in a later post, when we are going to try to mess with the medical pager system a little bit. But this device I could find, and it's a maybe you'll recognize this. This obviously is a camera lens, and underneath there is a CCD chip. Then we have some other components here. We'll get into this is a very interesting little bit right here, this chip with the writing on it. I don't know if this is readable, but yeah, this is just readable. It's a ZORAN Coach 6M chip. It is the younger brother, I suppose, of the new Coach 7 chip. It's very popular in cheap cameras. I'm pretty convinced that the camera I'm filming this with right now, a Camilio P100, crappiest camera in the world, but I love it, is sporting the same chip. And then now, I'm not far enough in my research yet, but then either this or this will be a NAND flash. So then the final component of interest here is this this display. This is a display. Can you see that? Like, let me just turn this a little bit. Well, anyways, like anybody knows what a display looks like, right? It looks like this. So it was really easy finding the ports. Oh yeah, and then here we have a flash card reader. So I don't know if you've already figured out what this device is, but I will tell you in a second. I'm just about these UART ports. As I said, most digital devices will have one of these now. A popular thing to actually mess about with, as far as I can see on the YouTube videos and stuff, is routers, wireless routers, and all kinds of routers will have good hacking abilities. You can make some real cool changes to them. And also things like Google TVs and Apple TVs, all that stuff. There's a really interesting talk on DEF CON. I think it was DEF CON 22. I'm actually convinced it's DEF CON 22, where a couple of guys show you how to hack 20 devices in 45 minutes, and they go mostly by the UART. Because what this will do, this is like a debug port for a mechanic, or like a technician, I should say. And they can actually get a terminal session open here. And in a lot of more advanced devices than this, like routers, it will actually just like either drop you straight to a Linux shell, or you can actually get to a Linux shell with a little bit of extra trickery involved. This does not as far as I understand, this doesn't run Linux, and that's where we get into this chip. So let me tell you about this device first a little bit. This is this is mounted in a little standing construction, which puts all of this sort of like raised up quite a bit, and then there's a tiny little light table about this big, little fluorescent square lighting table that lights upwards into this camera. And then what you do is you feed 35mm camera film, you feed that through this machine, and you press a button here. There's a couple of buttons right here. So you press this one right here, and it actually snaps a picture of the negative that you're feeding through, that 35mm negative that you're feeding through. So it's a scanning device for old 35mm film. So you're not scanning the photo that you've developed. Now you're scanning the negatives that you developed. So this camera actually shoots a negative, and I don't know whether that's a software decision or a hardware decision yet. I'm not far enough with that, but that's what this is. And I figured, like, we can have some fun with that, just sort of seeing what else it can do, because at the moment it shoots photos. I'm not that interested in photos, but I am quite interested in video. And my first thought would be is to turn this into something that might be installed in an old 8mm camera, because those go really cheap, and I really like the design of 8mm cameras and that idea of just pressing a button and it starts recording. But unfortunately it's not as simple as that, because if it would have dropped me just to a Linux shell straight away when I connected to that. And we'll connect this to USB after this explanation, and we'll jump into the computer and I'll show you exactly what happens there. But this ZORAN chip, the Coach 6M, is unfortunately running a proprietary operating system created by the company ZORAN. And as I was researching this online, there was basically 1 or 2 threads I could find of people actually discussing this chip and possibilities of how to install custom firmware onto the NAND flash to make it do more interesting things. Because I really believe that you'll see soon when we jump into the computer that it actually seems to have more functionality than this device provides, and even possibly have audio capabilities. Even though the audio might not be connected at the moment to anything, it's very possible that we can actually connect audio straight to the board and get audio with it. It definitely is able to play audio, but it doesn't have a speaker. So again, that will be something to just find a way of connecting a speaker to the board, because again, this chip is used in a lot of cheap digital cameras. So the software and the chip will have capabilities of performing as a video camera, only this doesn't yet. So I could find some abandoned discussions on this ZORAN chip, but it mostly has to do with flashing the NAND. Now, again, I am not completely sure which one of these two will be the... Okay, so my camera battery just sort of crashed on me, so as I was saying, I wasn't entirely sure which one of those 2 chips is the NAND flash yet, and even if I were to know, as far as I understand, flashing a NAND chip is a little bit more difficult than just hooking it up via UART and uploading some firmware. It might actually require desoldering the chip entirely and building a cheap NAND flash reader writer out of a flash card, like SD card reader writer, because NAND flash and SD card are as far as I understand it, pretty interchangeable, and one can read and write the other. All you have to do is basically make a little bed for it to sit in. I might show some googling on that later, just to make that more clear. Now, the way that I got into the device itself was using this script called baudrate.py. So it's a Python script. I'm just looking for the download here because I have actually no clue how to download this, but I'm sure I can just view the raw file and just save it. And I'll just save it here. So what I'm doing now is changing the executable mode on the script. Sorry. Yep. And then I believe it's just a matter of running it right there, and we're gonna have to turn the device on, so it will go into auto detection mode, and then you'll actually have to find the right button to turn the device on. So you will have to provide power to the board and have it all connected correctly, and then you hit the power button, and you start seeing this stuff right here, and that is the operating system on the device booting up. This will not give you well, it's giving you a lot of information, but it took me about half an hour to figure out what to actually do here, because I was just sitting here thinking like, oh, that's it, like all it shows me is the booting information, but there is actually and this is the strangest thing for a Linux user or a Mac user, is like you have to hit ls to get in there. Actually, looking at it now, we're not getting in there at all. I remember why, because we have to Control C out of this. So you hit Control C. Just, you can save this as anything. I'll just call this like scanner, because it's a little scanner. And then it asks you, would you like to run Minicom now? Now, Minicom is your terminal program that you're going to use to get into the device. So it's defaulted, yes, we go in there. And now we hit ls, and this is actually coming straight from the device's operating system. So just to quickly go over it, ls prints all the available functions, help, all available. So there is some typos in the device already. That's great. It becomes more interesting right about, I believe that here it becomes a bit more interesting, because we were talking about flashing the NAND, and well, this is what it is. Like, if you wanna change the firmware on this, first you're gonna have to find out what the firmware actually is, and that this will be some sort of a binary file that you need to retrieve, and that's the biggest thing. If I have to desolder the NAND flash and make a reader for it, I'm gonna be busy on this for a while, and I'm actually not really confident enough with electronics yet to say I'm gonna just desolder a chip and then have to resolder it again too. So I would rather find a way to not have to do that. And I was messing about with any command basically that mentions even the word NAND. So it had the read NAND command. No, what was that called again? Well, obviously it was NAND read, which gives me a lot of hex output and stuff that really doesn't seem very clear to me at the moment. It's just a matter of more research. The most part of it is like how easy it is to get into this device already. This is where it kind of became interesting for me when when it talks about MP4. So see, there is a mode. I can switch it already to MP4 mode, which is what I kind of want to do, because that will make video with AAC audio, and that's kind of really what I'm in it for. But I was kind of hoping that there would be some sort of a because it accepts a USB card or an SD card, so I was hoping that I could maybe possibly dump the NAND straight to the card, because I'm thinking about it from a technician point of view. And as far as I could read in the technical manuals on this chip, on the Coach 6M, it's actually built to be developed on, so there should be an easy enough way to get to the software and then get your own software in there. What I suspect is, if you were to provide the SD card with the right software format and the right place where it's placed on the SD card, which will probably be in the root of the SD card, the device will probably boot up that new firmware, because that will be how it is built. That's how I would do it. Like, you would write your stuff on a normal machine, put it on an SD card, put it in the device, and then the device auto updates because it's looking for that specific file to exist. And it won't exist on a normal SD card, because that's where the photos go usually. But I believe that is what we're looking at here. And there was a here we go. The NAND flushes contents into file, and unfortunately that does nothing but give me a 0-byte file on the SD card. So it does something, but it doesn't do what I want it to do, or I'm approaching it wrong. That is also a possibility. If anybody knows anything about this chip, there is people waiting on the internet to hack this thing into something that they want it to be. Most of them share my sympathy of wanting to turn it into a Super 8 camera, so we don't have to mess about with Super 8 cartridges and have the development horror, which costs, you know, way too much to make that a viable way of shooting with a Super 8 camera. But that's basically kind of as far as I got. I mean, I can make it do some things, like I can make it print some debug images on the screen, all that kind of stuff, but that's not what I wanted to do. So this is, you know, part kind of like the dummy's guide to getting into a device via UART, because I had to find all this stuff out myself, and it took me a little bit. On the other hand, I was in it within like half a day, so it's all a matter of being motivated enough to find information. There's lots of information out there. But yeah, that's it so far. So again, if anybody knows anything about this chip, or has ever seen this specific output before when they got into a device and they got these commands thrown at them, you're probably working with the same chip and the same basically what I'm looking for is any information that provides me with something that I don't have to desolder the NAND and try to get the operating system out of there, then to decompile it and try to make something out of it myself, or to just like use a hex editor and put it into video mode, and because that's really all I want to do. It's that little board I showed you right there is a video camera waiting to happen, because it has everything from the storage to the chip to the display to the camera to the SD card reader. This can be built straight into any kind of video camera like device, so it has a lot of potential to be fun, but it doesn't seem like anybody's ever been able to do anything with it, or hasn't posted it on the internet, so I'd be very interested in that for sure.